If you didn't stay up until 12:27 a.m. this morning to see the game ending between the Preds and the Sharks on the West Coast, buckle up, friends. It was a wild, wild ride.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this Friday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Friday game recap episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders who most of you all hung in there like champions with us last night. We also want to shout out our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support. We love getting through this season together as a collective. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a co-host and a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Look, if you all thought Tuesday night's game against the Sharks was bat poop crazy, have we got an episode for you? You would think these two teams got it all out of their system on Tuesday. They did not. Last night's game ended again 12:27. Ask me how I know the exact time. And somehow Emma survived another hockey roller coaster of a game. The Predators come away with a 6-5 win, but you might not believe how that all came about. We're going to talk about that. We're going to share our one word to describe the game. Preds get a win on the road on Thursday night. They've got to look ahead and get a win on the road in Anaheim Saturday. We're going to talk about that as well. Before we dive into the madness that was that game, we do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so let's just start this episode out by saying two things. Number one, Emma and I stayed up for that entire game. In case I haven't mentioned it, it ended at 12:27 this morning. Second of all, Emma is not feeling real great. So we will not be taking questions at this time because we are feeling very tired and a little under the weather.
You also had quite a day yesterday.
I had a day yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, we will not be taking questions or feedback at this time. Thank you very much. You're lucky we're even here right now.
We are
gracing your airwaves.
Honestly, this, like, no matter how tired I feel and how tired and sick you feel, it's like we almost have to come on. We would crawl off our deathbeds to do this episode because you all will not believe what that happened last night. You really thought after Tuesday night, we've seen the craziest game from the Nashville Predators. Of course, Tuesday night came back down 5-1. Greatest comeback in franchise history to win the game 7-5. Nashville, you smart people. You have learned your lesson. Now you're going to go to the San Jose Sharks and you're going to show them what you're made of for 60 minutes. Did they though, really? Nope. The Predators looked directly at us and said, sure. And then went on. It was a crazy game. We're going to get to the recap of the game. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about some of the players who stood out. We're going to talk about an interesting goaltending matchup too. I've got some questions about that. But we always kick off our recaps with one word to describe the game. And Emma, normally I let you go first, but I feel like I've got the right one word for this. Also want to reiterate, we will not be taking questions or feedback on the one word that Ann picks. But my one word is Spanx, or as my grandmother in her generation would say, girdle. Okay, because here for, male listeners, don't worry, it's not going to get uncomfortable, but Spanx is a brand of shapewear. And when you put shapewear on, and it kind of sucks some things in and adds some curves where you want some curves. And when you put shapewear on, you look fabulous. But you also have to remember at some point, shapewear comes off and you are who you are. And that's okay. There's a time and a place for shapewear. There's a time and a place for comfort. that is the Nashville Predators, friends. This was, I mean, Emma and I texted. We're like, from just a purely, step out of having to discuss this hockey game, this is a fun hockey game to watch. Lots of excitement, a little too much excitement at a little too late an hour for me. But here's what I'm going to say. The Preds came away with a win, but if you play this way, and we said this before, against the Jets or against the Lightning or against the Capitals, you are not going to look like, this team is not going to look like they're wearing their Spanx. Okay. They're going to look like the mayor's wife from Steel Magnolias who didn't wear a girdle to Shelby's wedding and it looked like two pigs fighting under a blanket. Like we saw some unspanked hockey last night in amongst some Kim Kardashian spanks or skims hockey. What was that, man? Like, don't act like you are one team, Nashville, and then take the Spanx off. And we really see, as we did, two pigs fighting under a blanket at times in that game. Emma, what the what?
I think my one word was actually going to be 4 words. Again, will not be taking questions or feedback. Those 4 words would be not on my bingo card because I did not have not just 1, but 2 games of must-see TV from the Nashville Predators and the San Jose Sharks, 2 of the bottom feeders in the West. And I mean, look, it was defense optional, I think, on both sides.
I love that. That's a great description.
A lot of offense. Where was the defense? Couldn't tell you. But I mean, it was, I think, what you said before about, we're going to see, like, they're just going to take it to them. They learned their lesson. They squeaked out with a win, with the 4-goal comeback. They're not going to make that mistake again. Well, you saw them come out with what, a 3-0 lead in the first?
3-0 lead. Yep.
And so you're like, okay, good. And then all of a sudden the damn game is tied at 5-5. I'm like, what in the hell, people? Like, what are we doing? This is too late an hour. I am not feeling well. I don't have time for this. And part of the reason the game took so freaking long was because
Emma. Say it.
The first period, I want to say, was 5 goals and 3 fights. Like, that period took forever. It took 84 years for that period to end. And it was so much stoppage of play, so many penalties, and so much, like, it was so much, like, high. You want to talk about high event hockey? That was it.
Yes. Yeah, this was the game, the kind of game, and I'm not necessarily saying defensively, but I'm saying if you want to push an offensively focused sport, Gary Bettman wishes this had been on primetime, as do I. It was so offensively minded. The 3 fights, okay, I get it. Like, I get it. As somebody who likes a good fight now and again, like, I get it. But what are we doing? Like, my husband, God love him. He's like, hey, hon, I'm going to sit up with you. You've had a long day. I'm going to sit up with you and we're going to watch this game together. And like halfway through the second, he's like, that first period took so long. I'm going to bed. Which just kept going and going and going.
The first fight, I understood. It was, they were down. The Sharks were down 3-0 early. Desperately looking for a spark, just something to kind of change the momentum. And that's when you need a fight sometimes. And so it was Luke Cunnin kind of went for it with, it was Luke Cunnin and Michael McCarron. Was that the first one?
Cole Smith.
And then that's right. Michael McCarron was the second one.
Right.
But it was Luke Cunnin and Cole Smith. And that's like, okay, all right, that, I get it. You got to spark something in your team. Makes sense. But then like not even a second had come off the game clock. And then Michael McCarron
in between.
Yeah. No, Michael McCarron and Barclay Goodrow are going at it. And you're like, all right, okay.
All right.
And then that one's over. One more second off the clock. Then Zach LaRue and Ty Dellandrea are going at it. And it's like, okay, guys, we get it. And then it was for what the purpose that serves, like I said, trying to, spark your team. I can't say that any of the Sharks won their respective fights. I think that it was pretty heavily tilted towards Nashville and all of those, but it did kind of, it served the purpose that,
It
it really
did.
provided a spark, because not long after that they got a goal back, and then they got another goal back, and it was like, oh, all right, we have ourselves a game now. So clearly, the fights, I don't want to say rattled, that might be too strong of a word, but it had an impact on the
I
game.
think
And
it distracted Nashville because
yeah,
Nashville was up 3-0 quickly. We're getting a little confident, and then they got distracted by them,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. And so again, if you get distracted like that against a team like Winnipeg or Colorado, Dallas, that you're not coming back from that.
Mhm.
But since it was San Jose, they could. They made it a little bit too interesting, but they were able to get it done. But you give credit to San Jose, because they came out flying, and they were, they really battled, even
They
after
did.
going down 3-0 early.
Mhm.
And they still scored 5 goals twice in a row. Like,
Yeah,
this is,
yeah,
good for them, not so good for Nashville. But
yeah.
again, defense optional.
We're going to talk about that defense optional game plan that Nashville has had in their last 2 games. We're also going to talk about 2 of the players that really stood out in this game and extended a goal scoring streak. And we're going to share our insiders' one words coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. If you are looking to make some great memories in the year 2025, you need to check out the deals available for live events like sports, theater, comedy, and more on Gametime. Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming Preds game. And of course, my first stop is always the Gametime app. With Gametime Picks, I found amazing deals. I could see the view from the seat before buying. The super deals are particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. And the app's all in pricing showed me the total cost up front. There were no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Yeah, speaking of Gametime, it was a late one, you all. Game wrapped up last night well after midnight. The Predators came away with a 6-5 win over the Sharks in a game that was nothing short of drunk. If I, had to just be real honest with you. We, of course, always chat with our Locked On Predators insider community before, during, and after games. And so many of our insiders hung in there like champs. Like, way to go, insiders. Hardy, hardy sports bunch we have. Lee's one word is a rough translation of a quote from Jaws. Die, you son of a flagnog, because those Sharks would not go away. What a wild game. They would not go away. You would think down 3-0 in just a few minutes into the game that they would have been like, oh, okay, not our night. They did not. Dustin's one word, and I have to say, Dustin, I feel like you nailed this. Dustin's one word is grandpa's old stories. Remember when your granddad would tell you a rad story when you were a kid and you thought it was the coolest thing ever? Then he tells you that same story a few years later and it isn't quite as awesome. Yeah, that was this game. The defense continues to keep our opponents in the game. The offense was spectacular, and it was. We're going to talk about 2 of those offensive players who had spectacular nights in a minute. Chris's one word is teamwork. 11 Predators notched at least a point. 5 had 2 or more points. Forsberg's heater continues. Gayton's one word is wild card ? falling ass backwards into wins, even when you poop the bed for most of the game, is what good teams do. Holy crap, is Nashville, dare I say it, a good team again? 5 straight wins. Here's the thing, that this game is such a mirage, because you come away from these last 2 games going, ha ha, the Nashville Predators staged the greatest comeback in franchise history. And then, ha ha, the Predators cranking out the offense and getting a win. But you have to finish both of those sentences with, and I say this respectfully, against the San Jose Sharks. And I say that respectfully. Emma and I have fully fessed up publicly. The Sharks are a secret team we love to watch. But I don't know. I don't want to take too much away from this game because, again, asterisk against the San Jose Sharks. Love you, JD Young. Love the Locked On Sharks, folks. One of the things was really surprising before puck drop even happened, Emma, was that it was Yaroslav Askarov. No, Askarov. Yaroslav Askarov. Did I get it right?
Do we just get to choose our own names now?
Take a minute. Emma, explain why I'm having trouble with this.
So when when Yaroslav was drafted, and then he came up through the Predators system, and when he first came over, we were all saying Askarov, and we were corrected that the correct pronunciation, the Russian pronunciation, is Askarov. We're like, oh, okay, understood, got it. So we switched. And
we were corrected, corrected and told, please pronounce it this way, which we always want to do.
Yes, and like, this is the correct pronunciation. We're like, cool, understood. And then he goes to San Jose, and now he wants to be Askarov. But he acknowledged that, yes, no, Askarov is correct, but I want to go by Askarov. What? Like, can I just go by? It's like that episode of Friends when Phoebe wants to change her name. Like, do I just get to go by Princess Consuela Banana Hammock now just because?
Yes. My name is spelled ANN, but it's pronounced Queen.
Yeah.
If we could just do that from here on out on the podcast, I would appreciate that. So, Yaroslav Askarov. I think I've got the wrong thing right. We're gonna have to
unlearn. Yeah,
we're gonna have to workshop that. So, Queen and Princess Consuelo Banana Hammock were interested in the fact that Yaroslav Askarov, of course, got the start in San Jose, which we anticipated, but UC Saros did not. And remember, Saros was pulled in the Sharks game after one period. Justus Ananen, Big Juice, still workshopping that one, came in and played 40 minutes on Tuesday night. But it was Justus Ananen who got the start Thursday for the Predators and not Saros. I don't know, Emma, what do you make of that decision? Do you think there's something to that? I was interested in it. I was just very
yet another thing that I did not have on my bingo card for this game. I was not expecting it. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm trying not to make too much of it. I don't think, Ananen was very good in each of his last two. Well, his last start and then his last appearance, which was not a start, but his last 2 games with Nashville, he was very solid. And we did see it a lot. I mean, this isn't a back-to-back because they're playing Thursday and Saturday, but we saw it a lot on the road with Saros and Kevin Lankinen last year, where Lankinen would start the first game and Saros would start the second one. So I'm like, with knowing that, I'm not really all that worked up about it. But I was surprised.
Yeah. And the one thing that we can tell you, in conversations with Andrew Brunette when it comes to goaltending, obviously there's full confidence in UC Saros. There's not a crisis of confidence in this franchise when it comes to UC Saros. But Andrew Brunette has said that every time he sees Justus in net, he likes his game a little bit more. So it may just be wanting to get eyes on Justus a little bit more. And again, remember that it is the goaltending coaches, Ben Vanderklok, Mitch Korn is the what is he, director of goaltending. There's conversations around there. in essence, they kind of make the goaltending decisions. Andrew Brunette really, I wouldn't say he defers to them, but they kind of set they set the goaltending. So it was just an interesting start. I think people were looking for the storyline of like, should the Predators have gotten kept UC Saros? We're going to see tonight whether this was the right move or not. First of all, that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works, but we didn't get that storyline. Do want to talk about two players who I am so freaking excited for. And one young person who I'm like, bless. Let's talk about little Felix Forsberg. This is Filip and Aaron Forsberg's little son, Felix. Felix, let me tell you something that I know for you. You will never get away with stealing a cookie from the cookie jar because your father has eyes in the back of his damn head. Did you see the goal? Filip Forsberg, you all, if you did not stay up for the game, go and watch Filip Forsberg's first goal of the game, where he is at the top of the circle, facing away from the net. The puck comes down. He tips the puck between his legs, facing the opposite end of the rink, and scores a frickin' goal. This dude has eyes in the back of his head. Wizardry. And Felix Forsberg is never going to get away with anything, which, you know what? I don't think he's ever going to try. He's just probably a really good egg. But unreal, Filip Forsberg.
Yeah,
unreal.
he has a knack for scoring from those just insane angles. And we saw that. But I mean, yeah, in a way I was glad because in the last game against San Jose in Nashville, it took him until the empty netter at the end to score the goal to extend his goal streak. Thankfully, he got it out of the way in the first period this time, so extended his goal streak to 7 games. But yeah, Filip Forsberg, again, scores in bunches. Went 18 games without a goal. Maybe he'll go 18 games with a goal now. Who knows?
The way that he's been playing, I'd be like, all right, I can believe that. He had 2 goals in this game. That first one, I'm telling you all go watch this goal because it's just straight wizardry. The other person that I want to shout out offensively, Fedor Svechkov, you all. And there is this narrative this season. There's been a narrative brewing. Nashville cannot develop a forward. Nashville can't develop good forwards. And Fedor Svechkov, he's still young. He is still young in the system. He was up here in Nashville, went back to Milwaukee. They've recalled him back up here, but he is now on a 3-game goal streak. And I have to say, it's not just that the puck finds the back of the net, Emma. It's that in these games, I love just overall what we're seeing from Fedor Svechkov. And it makes me think there is something really real here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, I just was a guest earlier today, actually, on the Pucks and 7 podcast with Ryan Payton and Victoria Matiash. And one of the first questions they asked me was, who is this Fedor Svechkov kid and why should we know about him? And I was like, let me tell you. Let me tell you.
Yes.
I think that he is, you're starting to see him play with a lot more confidence. He's looked really good on the end. I think he and Tommy Novak, I mentioned this in yesterday's show, have been really good together, really good for each other. Tommy is now kind of unlocking that that playmaking ability. Not playoffs yet, y'all. I'm not there yet. I've got Dayquil brain, but I think that he is like, you are really starting to see him play with more confidence, and he is not playing with, it almost looked like he was playing with imposter syndrome the first time he came up, which is understandable. Understandable. Like, you're a child. I mean, from the neck up, you look 12. So I would understand why you would feel a little maybe too small for the moment. But I mean, right now he's playing like he absolutely belongs there. And it's just been really good to see.
And I agree with you. I love he and Tommy Novak together. I think that they work well together, and I like Zach Leroux on that line. Tommy Novak had a goal and an assist in last night's game. Leroux had 2 assists and a fight. Emma still won't say publicly whether I would win in a fight or Zach LaRue would win when we almost threw down in the locker room over Wicked, but we're just going to let her stay Switzerland on that. Coming up, we do have to talk about the portion of this game that was, in the words of Princess Consuelo Banana Hammock, defense optional. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So earlier in the episode, I mentioned Steel Magnolias, where the mayor's wife didn't wear a girdle and it looked like two pigs fighting under a blanket while she was dancing. That is a great way to describe the consistency of defense we saw from the Nashville Predators in that game. And it wasn't just that Nashville got lazy here and there. There were literally goals scored by San Jose where it looked like they were cones set up on the ice in immovable positions. Like, what's going on defensively? And I'm not just talking defenders. I'm talking forwards and defense, just standing there watching it happen. What's going on, Emma?
Well, I don't know, but I do want to back up slightly and say that I may have misspoken when I said defense optional. Defense optional unless your name is Nick Blankenburg and you thought you were a goalie for the night. I mean, he's been a forward, he's a defenseman. Put him in net too, because he absolutely single-handedly saved a goal in the third period for Nashville while Justus Ananen was out of the crease. But there were a couple plays where San Jose scored, like you said, that, I mean, there was one where Ananen was completely pinned out of the crease, actually by Blankenburg. But I mean, it looked like just, I don't know, they like short circuited a little bit, and then it was just like, net was open.
Yeah.
Oops.
It was like the energy, the offensive energy and go of this game got them. I love when you say short circuited. It kind of just got them out of that defensive structure that they needed. And credit goes to the San Jose Sharks, who really were running the puck up and down the ice. But defensively, and again, this isn't just specifically like, hey, we've got some problems on the blue line, which we've talked about earlier in the week, that we do think there are some areas on the blue line that need to be fixed. But just as a team, defensively, there were periods of defensive lapses. And the San Jose Sharks, they are young, they are spunky, but friends, they have Macklin Celebrini. And if you are I'm just telling you, as somebody who sneaks and watches the Sharks, if you are just looking for a fun young player to watch, Macklin Celebrini, and he showed it, of course, in the game yesterday. But the Sharks can score goals, especially against the Nashville Predators, as evidenced by
10 of them.
10 in 2 games, y'all.
Yeah, well, I think too, they're a much younger team overall, and they made Nashville look really slow. And that's what you saw defensively. Like the back checking was not really there. It just, there are too many breakouts. And I think too, even when you lost, we didn't mention this earlier, but I feel like we should, the Cole Smith match penalty for a check to the head. Now look, It was really hard contact, really heavy
Mm-hmm.
contact. I am not, you hate to see any guy go down like that. And he did, Ty Dellandrea did leave the game after that, did not return. You hate to see it.
Yeah.
But I rewatched that so many times, and that head check to the head looked an awful lot like a shoulder to me.
Shoulder to shoulder. Yeah.
Very unfortunate how it ended, but that's a whole other podcast for another day. But the point is, when you're missing for the majority of the game now a player like Cole Smith, who does so much defensively as a forward,
Yes.
that's where I say, like, you can really tell the difference. And it just seemed like guys were not where they needed to be and in certain times, and credit to San Jose because they took advantage of it.
Yeah. Nashville did have a pretty darn good night on the power play. They went 3 for 5. Now, I do think that San Jose is are they 31st or something like that on the penalty kill? They're still growing. There's opportunities for growth on the penalty kill for San Jose, as they say in the business world. But Nashville looked really good. And I loved that we saw the second power play unit, because Bruno, it appears like his confidence in that second unit has been vacant for quite a while, because there have been a number of times where Nashville's been on the power play, and you will keep that top unit out there for most of, and at times all of, the 2 minutes. So it was great to see that second unit. And I think part of that has to do with some of those players, like we mentioned earlier, are playing with some confidence. Of course, you've got Gus Nyquist and Brady Shea on that second unit, but you've got Tommy Novak, you've got Fedor Svechkov, and you've got Zachary Leroux on that second unit. And now that you're seeing Novak and Svechkov and Zach Leroux building some chemistry as a line, it's nice to see Andrew Brunette feeling like, okay, this is a unit I can put out on the ice on the power play, give that top unit some rest, and they can generate some things. So I think that was something very encouraging that I took away from this game. It's like, okay, the second unit, A, is going to get a chance, and B, they're going to do something with it.
Yeah, that was really good to see as well. Like you said, there's kind of been that tendency by Brunette to rely a little bit too much on that top unit, or even sometimes his, top forward lines at 5-on-5. So good to see everyone getting chances. I mean, you saw it in the last game too, where, 7 different goal scorers. That's good. That's what you need to see.
Yeah. Yeah, finally getting some of that depth scoring, getting consistent scoring from Filip Forsberg. My goodness, Phil. Nashville Predators, here's the bottom line. For all of the nutso that game was, and friends, if you have time, you need to go back and watch it, because it was bat poop crazy. But for all the crazy that game was, what matters is that Nashville came away with 2 points on the road. We've talked about that being such a struggle for this team this season. They are going to continue to play on the road Saturday night in Anaheim against the Anaheim Ducks. Oh, Lord, Emma. I'm going to need a different game than what we had Tuesday and Thursday on Saturday night. The Ducks are 19-23-6. Of course, they've got some goal scorers on their roster. They've got some pretty good goaltending going to. When you're looking to Saturday night, Emma, what do you want to see from the Nashville Predators?
Well, I want to see them, after the first game against San Jose, I said, all right, well, they didn't start on time. I want to see them start on time. Well, this game, they started on time, but then, I don't know, they took a break in the second period. I don't know. And so it's like, good Lord, people, can we just play for 60 minutes? Yeah. Because, I mean, I would like to see more defensive discipline as well, because, again, no disrespect, but the Anaheim Ducks are only just ahead of the Sharks in the Pacific Division standings right now. They're 3-5-2 in their last 10. They did just handily beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I mean, this is a team that is not, on paper, Nashville needs to beat this team. And you can't be having any more of those defensive lapses that we saw against San Jose in both games against San Jose. So, and again, that's not just the defensemen, but also the defense of the forwards.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting one. Nashville has strung together 5 wins in a row. It's like Christmas because the Predators couldn't get past 3 wins all season long. They now have 5 wins in a row. Saturday night, they're going to see if they can make it 6 against the Anaheim Ducks. Again, road game Saturday night. If you thought the puck drop last night was brutal, buckle up, Buttercup, and plan your naps accordingly. Puck drop, 10 p.m. Saturday night. Yes, Emma
10?
and I. It is 10 p.m. Isn't it 10
Hold
p.m.?
on.
That's
Is
what it
it?
says on my
No.
thing.
No,
It's
it's
not?
10 Eastern. 10 Eastern. It's
Oh,
9
okay.
p.m.
9 Central. Okay. Oh,
I
my
was
gosh.
like, now hold on.
I literally was like, this is how Anne, pronounced Queen, goes out. Another
Well,
late hockey night.
if you are listening and you're on the East Coast, it is 10 p.m. and I'm very sorry.
We're so sorry.
It is 9 p.m. for the rest of us.
Yeah, 9 p.m. Central Time. Plan your caffeine intake and your naps accordingly. Of course, on Monday's show, Emma and I will have that complete game recap. We're going to talk about this little road trip. We're going to look ahead to what Nashville has next week. They've got some other games that we would really like to see them win, and there are going to be some interesting matchups coming up for the Predators before the Four Nations break. So make sure you tune back in on Monday for the show. Before we log off for the week, Princess Consuelo Banana Hammock, will you let everyone know where they can find your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me, Queen, spelled ANN, on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this insane week of hockey at Locked On Preds. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back on Monday with an all new episode, and we'll let you know, can the Preds get another road win? We'll see you then.